like magic. It all vanishes like magic. Thank you all for being here. My name is Anthony Barocas. I'm the Chief Gearhead here at StreamTek. My watch is telling me, hey, you should start the show now. Thank you all for being here. As always, every week, I host this show live. I am an actual person. I am not an avatar. I am not AI generated. I am a real multi-camera live production engineer with 20 plus years of experience here live to talk to you. And if you are here live, then feel free to use those comments. First of all, hey, tell me where you're watching from, because this show, is being viewed around the world. I mean, we saw that Kirk is watching from Dallas, Texas, which is kind of where I am. But at the same time, Andreas is watching from Corfu, Greece, which, hey, that sounds like a pretty cool place. I should come visit. Speaking of that, I will say that I am in Dallas this week. I will be in Germany the next 2 weeks. I have at least one show planned from Germany. The other one, I may be on a trip, so I may not be able to do one of the Wednesday shows. So just letting you know ahead of time. Keep your eye out on the upcoming live streams to see what's going on. And also, as always, I will be talking about today's topic, which is the OSEE Duet 8 ISO. And more, because I want to also talk about the new Omni 12 that they just announced at NAB. Not out yet. You can't buy it. Price is still being worked out. Lots of things. There's no information about it on the OSEE Tech website, but we'll talk about it. And if you have questions, throw them in the comments, because if you're here live, this is a dialogue. You get that, be part of the show. So throw them in there. Hey, good to see you. Pete from Chicago, welcome to the show. And of course, we have the Kids Productions out there in Pico Riviera, California. Hello to everyone who may be watching out there. Hopefully it's sunny, because here in Dallas, it's pouring right now, and my internet is actually wireless. So hoping the internet speed holds true through lots of water. Yes, come. Nice island or northwest Greece. Love to join you. And we should put that together. We should definitely put that together. And Eric is also watching from the Netherlands. My goodness, we got a worldwide worldwide show going on. And Pocket Video School. You didn't even tell us where you're watching from. Usually playing rugby on a Wednesday evening for me, but currently injured. Oh, well, sorry that you're injured. Glad that you're here. So thank you all for being here. Again, I love this interaction. This is the whole point of us. We're like all sitting in a room together, except my room is currently getting hotter and hotter because of all the gear. But we're all sitting in the room together and we're talking shop. This is part of the fun. And if you ask a question, then I will do my best to answer it with my decades of experience, with the knowledge that I have about the gear. But if I don't know, we can either look it up together, or I will tell you that I don't know. I'm not going to be AI and look it up in 0.2 seconds and give you a 50% wrong answer and insist that you asked it wrong or something like that. You didn't formulate the question correctly. The prompt was wrong. I actually saw one AI comment saying, here I had AI write a prompt for me that I then feed into another AI. I'm like, shouldn't the AI just be able to figure out what you want, that you got to use another AI to properly formulate the prompt? It just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, I was in San Antonio for last week and went through some crazy storms. Yes, we've got the cool thing, the interesting thing about Texas is that storms just sort of appear here. So you could be like, hey, it's a nice day. 2 hours later, tornado warning. That's just the way it is. We got Mr. Leo Mike from Troy, Michigan. Thank you for joining us. I think you're new here. If you are, let me know. Thank you for joining us. And as always, I don't have memberships set up yet. It's something that's like way on a back burner, but you know, the other thing, I forget what they're called, you know, where you can like throw $1 in or something like that, that's working. And it actually comes up properly on here, and I can say thank you. And Pocket Video School is in Northumberland, United Kingdom. I was in London a few weeks back and enjoyed my time there. And I got to see all the different, I mean, it was really crazy how many different things are filmed in London. And I'm walking around going, oh, I've seen this, and oh, I've seen this. Oh, this is it's just crazy, you know, and that's an everyday location for people who live in London. So anyway, let us get to the point here, because OSEE has come out and they have made some really interesting video mixers. OSEE has sort of stepped in to be the main competitor, in my opinion, with Blackmagic design. The ATEM minis came out and they were fantastic, great value for the dollar, and they were sort of unmatched in the space. And it kind of sat like that for years. And then OSEE came out a couple years ago and came out with the deck, and then the Duet, which is, the deck is a 4-input switcher. The Duet is a 4-input switcher, but it has a combination of HDMI and SDI on one mixer, which is something that people have been begging Blackmagic to do forever. Because, you know, you could have SDI cameras, but then somebody walks up with a laptop, and then I need a converter to get the HDMI out to go to SDI to the thing. Wouldn't it be nice if the switcher just had an HDMI port and I could just plug in whatever? Yes, it is very, very handy. It's perfect for the producer, for the people who are doing the show, to have that stuff. I have a sneeze coming. Whew, that one took a while. Hey, Pocket Video School says, I have a Duet. The Duet, I call it the Duet 5, but the people in the OSEE user group really chided me on that and says, no, it's the Duet. Even though the new Duet is the Duet 8, the previous Duet is just Duet, not the Duet 5. I call it a I call it a Duet 5 because it holds 5 in it. Will you ever host a YOLO Box meetup? Call it K Meetup. YOLO Box actually, YOLO Live actually did have a meetup in Dallas not too long ago. I was there. Kirk was there. Kirk spoke at the event, talked about, you know, how he uses the YOLO Box, and a bunch of users all gave presentations. And that video, chock full of user experiences and information, is available on the YOLO Live YouTube page. So that's already out there. Will I host one? No, because that would be a paid gig. And I should say, through full disclosure, OSEE is not paying for today's show. OSEE is not a sponsor. I would love to have a sponsor. I'm doing this because NAB has passed, and since NAB, I had an NAB wrap-up show, and then I had a show focusing on the director, the Magewell director, and what we kind of saw at NAB about what could be the next director, but it was in somebody else's booth. That was last week's show. This week's show is we're focusing on OSEE, the Duet that they have out, and what was seen at the show. So we're kind of talking about what's available now and where they're going. So that is what today's show is about. And I have right here, let me just go to this. Oh, there we go, side by side. I have the Duet 8 right here. And this is, it's in many ways, it's like the Duet and the Duet 8 kind of work the same way. The Duet 8 is a sort of like what the Duet did, but more. So what the Duet did is the Duet had 4 inputs that you could have 4 HDMIs or 4 SDIs, or you could switch any one of those inputs between those two things. You can do the same thing here. HDMI, SDI, HDMI, SDI, all HDMIs, all SDIs, whatever you want to do. That's cool. That's the flexibility we love. And then the Duet, let me just cover these 4. The Duet 4, 5, had an aux over here. And then the aux lets you bring in an NDI source. So you could have a PTZ camera come in. You could have a UVC source, a webcam come in, or a webcam source. Like I have one right there on U2. You can see I have added labels, these white labels on top that tell me what these ports are: XLR1, XLR2, M1, M2, mic 1, mic 2, USB 1, USB 2, HDMI 1, 2, 3, 4, out 2, out 3. They tell me what to do, and I have begged OSEE to consider for their new switcher, since they're printing on this top plastic anyway, they're printing over here, to just print these labels on the top so the producer can just easily see. I got to plug it into U2. I want to plug it into mic 1. I want to plug it into mic 2. I know where they are just by looking at the labels. I didn't label the Ethernet because it's the only port like that. I begged them to do that. So, but these labels are mine. And, you know, I did the same thing on my YOLO box. You know, it's just something I as an end user, this makes a whole lot of sense. And since they're printing all over the whole top plastic anyway, I'm just like, well, print a little more and just make it so much more useful, because there's so much in here already. I digress. So there's an aux input that can be USB input, that can be an NDI input, that can be an RTMP input, that could be an SRT input, that can, you know, it can be any of those things, and you put it on that aux channel. What they did with the 8 is they gave you 4 auxes. So they took what the Duet 4, 5 is doing. That's like the Duet. You got 4 hardware inputs and then an aux. That could be video playback. That could be, you know, NDI, SRT, all these different things. And the Duet 8 says, that was a really good idea. Let's give more of those things. So I can have 4 NDI inputs. I can have 2 video playbacks and 2 NDI inputs. I can have an SRT input. I can, you know, all these different things. There's video players in here too. Video players. You don't need a separate device to play video, whereas with a Blackmagic, you do need a separate device to play video. You have the ability to have 4 NDI inputs. Blackmagic has completely shunned NDI. And in fact, at this NAB, they had no announcements regarding the ATEM line at all. It was all about very high-end, very SMPTE 2110, everything. Cameras, switchers, routers, switch, you know, everything. That was where Blackmagic was. They were going high-end broadcast, including stereoscopic production and a stereoscopic production switcher and cameras. And they took their 12K cinema camera, and with a fiber connection, you can now send that 12K signal through the switcher and switch it. And I'm like, did we skip over 8K? We went right to 12K. Who needs 12K? Are you going to broadcast 12K? Is there a lot of need to switch 16, 12K cameras? Maybe for sports, you know, but anyway, I digress. That is the magic of this, is that it has the NDI, which for mid-level and down, I think nobody's looking at 2110. Nobody mid-level and down is looking at 2110. Nobody corporate is looking at 2110. Nobody church is looking for 2110. You know, local sports, even local broadcast, nobody's looking at 2110. NDI is super awesome. I've been all in on NDI for years. So having 4 of them, yay. And then you have Media Player 1, Media Player 2, Super Source, and Function 1, Function 2. You got 2 different functions on 2 different buses, and you have all of that. And of course, you know, I have a video. I have an hour and 45-minute long video on this entire switcher. So this is not that video. We're not going to go through the whole thing again. Go watch that video if you're interested in that. You can find that on the StreamTek channel right over there. And if you wanted to see that, you could go right over to this little searchy tool, and I have 290 videos waiting for you on the StreamTek page. So go over there, and if you have a little wireless keyboard like I do, you could type in OSEE, O-S-E-E, and hit return. And then you will find everything that I've made on the, well, look at that, there's today's video. And you come down here, there's the Duet with STI. That's the, you can see I called it Duet 5. They hate me for that, but tough. And you come down here, the complete overview OSEE Duet 8. That is 1 hour and 43 minutes long. If you're interested in that video, that's a great walkthrough. There has been software updates since that, so there are new features, but the core of everything remains the same. So if you haven't already gone to the YouTube page, most people are on the YouTube page, all the comments are coming from YouTube. Subscribe, like a video, share it on your YouTube channel. You can also find articles that I've written on Streaming Media Magazine, and you can write to me directly, contact us page on the streamtek.us website, and that way you can reach me directly. And as always, I also have 2 other cool things which you can see more on Facebook. The B4 on Micro Four Thirds group I created, I don't know, 12 years ago, 15 years ago now, where we put big broadcast glass on Micro Four Thirds and other cameras. And if you're looking for a nice free little app to do multi-camera live switching on iOS, Teradek has the AirMix, and I created the AirMix group unofficial for people to check that out. And as always, check out my sister's artwork at 17secondsstudio.org. So back to this. Go over. For NDIs, media players, that's all well and good. This is the Duet 8. And when it came out, you could only do 4 hardware inputs and 4 NDI inputs. But if somebody is not using 4 NDI or SRT, it had like a lot of extra buttons they might not really be able to use, and not everybody does NDI. Maybe you have more physical cameras. And, you know, okay, I got 1 webcam, but I want to use all of the physical, because I have 8 physical connectors on here. And unlike the Duet 5, the Duet 8 has 8 physical buttons. So it would be nice if we could have both the HDMIs and the SDIs. And OSEE made it happen. You can use changing different modes. It was through an update after it shipped. You can use all of the hardware inputs on the back. So you can have HDMI, SDI, HDMI, SDI, HDMI, SDI, HDMI, SDI, all the way down the line. Now, these 4 still have the ability to be an NDI. So based on different usages, you could set it up so the first 4 are just HDMI, or they're just SDI, or they're intermixed, like I was saying, zigzag back and forth. So you have 2 and 2, and then you can keep going 2 and then 2 NDI, or use a UVC input or things like that. Now the other constraint with this Duet 8, that, you know, the other thing I really noted, other than the labeling, is that it only has 2 USB ports. Now you can see right here, I've got this nice Samsung, not a sponsor, you know, little, what's this, a T5, T9, whatever, storage connected here. So I can do my ISO records of all these channels out to my external storage right here. Because the SD card, which is in the front here for loading graphics and stuff, the SD card generally is not going to be fast enough to record 8 channels of ISO and program, so 9 channels, especially if you set the data rate really, really high. So that's primarily for external connectivity. So you're using up one of your 2 USB-C ports on the back for storage if you want to use the ISO capability of this switcher, which I think a lot of people who are going to buy this would be really, interested in the ISO capability. Okay, great. So you got a whole mix of all these cameras, you're ISOing it, and then you've got this. Then you've got one more USB port. you could use it to do USB out to Teams, or you could bring in a USB source, or if you want to stream from this device and you don't have an Ethernet connection, you could hook up a phone or some other hotspot via USB to provide a data connection. You could do a lot of things, but you only have the one other port. And it's like, well, if I need to go to Teams, but I also want to stream it, and then I have to figure out Ethernet, and the two USB ports became a constraint. And I think OSEE definitely recognized that. So when they came out with the new one, the Omni 12, it features a lot of USB ports. Now, admittedly, Rode did come out and introduced the Rodecaster Video, and the Rodecaster Video does have, I'm looking for the one, here it is. Do they say, here it is. Let's go to the laptop. So right over here, you have $12 inputs and 6 outputs. 4K HDMI times 8. 4K HDMI times 8. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves, because this actually takes in 4K. It immediately downsamples it to HD, and it's an HD switcher. But it's not like this would not understand. You could plug in a 4K camera outputting 4K into this, and then this would downsample it. So it can take in 4K, but it's not going to ISO record 4K. To my understanding, the new one, the Omni 12, will take in these 8 4K inputs and ISO record the 4K. I think that's a big advantage. Also, you're not limited to 4 HDMI and 4 SDI, and you have to like balance your sources. You have 8 HDMIs. So if you're all HDMI on all your cameras, you can hook them all up. If you have all SDI, all 8 SDI. So you can pick and choose for all your inputs. You have 8 of both. You still have 4 NDIs. So that actually hasn't changed. It's exactly like the Duet 8. It's 4 NDI inputs. And honestly, if you're mix and matching HDMI and SDI, and you've got an even number of both, then even that is exactly like the Duet 8. 4 HDMI, 4 SDI, 4 NDI. Because one of the key things is when you look at, let me see if they got a picture at the top here. It only has 8 buttons, and then a couple extra buttons over here that gives you the other inputs. So it's not like you've got 12 buttons. You don't. You don't have 12 input buttons. But they have a shift key that makes all of these buttons, you see the little white type on the bottom, that does double duty. And that's how you get those extra inputs. So you could have NDI 1, NDI 2, NDI 3, NDI 4 with the shift key touching these buttons. And that's why these buttons over here on the right of the mixer are the ones closest to the shift key. So you can click, tap, you could touch both of them. So it would in essence be like if I just hit, shift tap, shift tap, shift tap. That's why these are the shift buttons, shiftable buttons over here, because that's where the shift key is. You wouldn't want to have to, especially with the larger control surface that it is now. You can see that the buttons are bigger, they have more space, and they're also the more broadcast, clickable buttons. There's a definitive, when it passes this point, that is when it is actuated. So you can lay your fingers on the buttons and then when you've clicked it. Those buttons, you can't reach 1, 2, and 3 and shift. You would have to use 2 hands for that. Whereas here, because these are smaller, I could easily hit any of these as well as a shift button over here, but that's not how this one works. There's no shift. The one thing I did, the other real recommendation I hope maybe they can still do in the Omni, although I seem to be the only one who wants this, but I said, listen, if I can have HDMI and SDI switchable on all of these inputs, I would love to just be able to like double tap 2 and now it's the SDI, and double tap it again and now it's HDMI. You can program a macro to do it, but at the same time, if you have a PTZ camera, you can program, sorry, the macro's over here. You can program the macros to do PTZ scenes or different picture-in-picture setups. So you have 10 macros on this surface and you could easily use them up. I mean, you've got this many inputs, and if you want to cycle through, I think it's easier just to make this bottom row your cycle button. And then, where did my multi-view go? There it is. If you're looking at the multi-view, you will see the input switch. So input 3 is, oh wait, I got 2 of them going into input 1. You know, you would just like double tap input 1 and whatever is in input 1 will switch. Now I can do that by taking the cable out of the camera and it will automatically switch. I'm saying just make this a double tap on the button. So that's the HDMI input, and then if I plug the camera back in, it's the camera. But why can't it just be as simple as that? Double tap, I see it change on the thing, cut to 1. Double tap, I see it change, cut to 2. Double tap, see it change, cut to 3. That is my recommendation, and I hope they take it. I didn't know the Duet 4.5 could ingest SRT. Are you sure? I believe it can. And we can go to the OSEE, come on, Duet, Deck Duet. And we come down here to the tech specs. 5, you can bring in NDI UVC internal video player. 5, HDMI, SDI auto detection configurable. Channel 5, NDI UVC internal player. I stand corrected. The Duet with the 4 SDI inputs on the side here is not taking in RTMP. It's RTMP out, but not RTMP or SRT in. That was a change for the Duet 8 ISO, and then when you go to the tech specs, you come down here, it can take in 4 times NDI HX, not full NDI, 4 times SRT, 4 times RTMP, 2 times webcam, 2 times NP4 player inputs. So definitely the Duet 8 uses more CPU power to make this happen, to make those additional capabilities happen. And I can zoom in on that. Why would you let me? There we go. So that's what the Duet 8 lets you do. So thank you for that question, for clarification. Does it have ISO recording? The new Omni 12 ISO has ISO recording. The new and the current Duet 8 ISO has ISO recording. The Duet 4.5 does not. It just records program. It'll record, and it'll record to the SD card in the Duet, but it'll only record program. The Duet 8 ISO offers ISO capability, so it has to say ISO, just like the Blackmagics do. With ISO recording in 4K, and each camera also records in 4K, can you make it 4K in post? I think you can. I don't have, there's no spec sheet like this for the Omni 12 yet. All we have is this page, 3 angles from 1 camera, but it does not say over here, it does not say that it's going to record an XML for editing. That's the only way you can then later conform your HD program, because this is still an HD switcher. You know, this Omni 12 is still an HD switcher. I can zoom in a little bit more on that. Come on. And it takes in 4K. I believe, and somebody can correct me if they have additional information from an AB, that it ISOs 4K. And technically you can ISO, as you say, you can ISO in your cameras as well. But to sync it up with the live switch, you would need the switcher to generate an XML file of your cuts and transitions, video playbacks, and everything like that, so that you can then go back and conform with the original source material. So I actually don't know the answer to this one. And I'm being honest, like I said, I'm an end user like you. I have some experience, and I'm applying that experience to what we see. But one of the other key things that I really wanted to point out here is it says no Android crash, hardware reliability. One of the things that is not really talked about very much is that when they went from the Duet to the Duet 8, the Duet 8 does most everything in software. It's a CPU-driven machine, to handle all of these inputs. And it's doing all of that in CPU processing. And if something crashes it, like if you get a badly formed NDI signal from a cheap camera or a cheap converter and it comes in here, it can corrupt what is being processed and take the entire switcher down. And that was actually posted about in the OSEE group. So, this was actually a recent discussion in that somebody had the OSEE Duet and they says, this switcher is a piece of crap because we were doing a show and we decided that, we had 4 good cameras and everything was going great. And we decided to add one more. So we downloaded an NDI app to my, producer's phone. We loaded it into the switcher and the entire switcher just crashed. And I had to turn it off, boot it all back up, get it all back up and running, and restart the stream with a new stream because too much time had passed and everything. And then, we were going good and we tried it again and it crashed again. The switcher is a piece of junk. It's not that the switcher is a piece of junk. It's that A, you didn't test it in people who watch this show. No, I always say test, test, test before your event. Don't do it live. And second, you used an untested NDI app with, as we find out later in the discussions, they didn't use the NewTek app. I'm sorry, the Vizert app. They used another app by a company I'd never heard of with only 3 stars and some negative ratings. They used that one because it was free. And then they say the switcher is crap. It was making poorly formed NDI that had to be, computed in the CPU, and it forced the CPU to crash because it was not being formulated properly. And that can happen when you have a bad CPU, or when you have a CPU-driven machine. So what they did with this one, because it was CPU, and it has that key issue. Generally, it's never a problem. But if you do something that you didn't test for, and you do it live, and you're doing something with something else that is not playing nice, yes, you can crash the switcher. So what they're saying with this new one is no Android crash because what the switcher does and anything compute are separated. So decoding NDI happens over here with your inputs, but the switcher is not run, is a hardware switcher. So you're switching hardware inputs. And then if you have an NDI input, that is decoded by an NDI decoder in the box and then handed off like another input. So if that NDI input were to crash or be corrupt, that one input would not work. Everything else would continue to work. And that's one of the big changes they made with the Omni 12 is that for more broadcast reliability, and you've seen me say bulletproof is a feature. Bulletproof is a great feature. You know, I often say, I love stuff that does what it says it's going to do. Now, admittedly, a third-party app taking down my switcher, I would still say the switcher's doing its job. I would still say the switcher was doing its job. It was just being handed bad data, which messed it up. As long as everything's playing good and you tested it, that's not, you know, an issue. But here, this is just a whole other layer where something poorly formed, some connectivity issue, something like that, is not going to crash the switcher. That's one of the key things that they put in here. XLR audio, just like the Duet 8. Broadcast workflow, they redesigned the panel buttons on there so they're more, you know, familiar to people who are in the broadcast. Alpha overlays, you could bring in alpha overlays in the Duet 8. ISO record, another big change. Now, you've got more channels. First of all, you got 12 channels. And you already couldn't record that to an SD card in the Duet 8. So what they did was they went to CFast. I believe that's CFast. They went to CFast over here for your input. One CFast card can do 1,200 megabits per second or some insane speed. And that will be able to handle all of your ISOs plus program internally, meaning you don't need to plug in an external, you know, little recorder USB drive to do your ISO recording, freeing up one of the USB ports. Yay. The downside is, as of right now, there is no SD card. I and others have asked them to reconsider putting an SD card in the front like the other Duets have, because we still get media handed to us on an SD card. And it's nice, you know, yes, you can add a USB reader on the back, but it's another thing to bring. If the USB was, thank you very much, if the SD card was built in like it is on the other ones, I could just take a card, load a graphic, and have it in there. That would be great and convenient. Again, user convenience, operator convenience, and to not have to, you know, go to a workaround to get media. Oh, I got to put this on, you know, the computer and then bring it over, and et cetera, et cetera. Question comes in. ATEM line are control panels, and the ATEM software does the work for the expanded function, which differs from OSEE. No, they actually work the same. And this is a really good question. Thank you very much for this question, Eric. The ATEM mini line, all of the processing is in the switcher. It is not a control surface. I mean, it is a control surface, but the actual CPU is in the switcher. With the OSEE, all of the processing is in the switcher. It's the exact same on both OSEE and Blackmagic Design. Everything is in the switcher. You do not need a computer to do anything. You do not generally need a computer to do anything. You can use the Blackmagic control panel or the Blackmagic app and go in and upload a new graphic. Well, actually, you have to use the app to upload a new graphic to your still store. You have to use the app to adjust the EQ on each audio input. You know, you have the ability to adjust the audio levels with the buttons. I mean, I have a Blackmagic over here. I don't have anything pointed at it. No, I'm not going to do that. You have the buttons up and down and on and off, and audio follows video. You have basic ability with the audio to turn, you know, for each channel, but you can't do the EQ and things like that. You need to use the software to do that. What OSEE also did was OSEE made it so you can do all of this from the switcher. You don't need the app for like 95% of what the OSEE switchers do, which is really cool. And I'll show that to you. So go like this, go like this, not that one, this one. So here is the menu system in the GoStream. So if I wanted to step back out, I was looking for the IP address so I could set something up. But if I wanted to adjust my inputs, that's right here. If I want to do my audio mixer, I can come into the audio mixer. I can go to mic 1. I can set it whether I want it to be line or mic level, panning, fader, preamp, delay, mono to stereo, low cut, noise gate, compressor, equalizer, low, middle, and high, all in here, in the mixer. There's nothing else being used. I'm literally using the menu button and this knob to access, wrong button, that menu is part of the mixer. Now, you can access it via software, and I have that ready. This is why, this is the switcher. So, like the Blackmagic, I have a whole switcher capability in here. So I can go in here, I can adjust macros, and you can do more macros. You can adjust your streaming settings. You can do other settings, and then over here, here's your audio setting. So based on what port you're working on, you have all these capabilities to turn them on and off and adjust all of that right here. And that is handy if you want to, hand it off to someone else and they're going to be, they could do certain things on the software. And there's a companion plugin for a Stream Deck, so you can put things on a Stream Deck. There's all that capability, and you can do it that way. But the big difference between the Blackmagic and the OSEE is that the Blackmagic requires you to have a computer to do a lot of things, and the OSEE lets you do 90 to 95% of everything you can do on the video mixer through the menu system that's built in, shows up on the multi-view screen. And that is a really, really handy thing. Pete jumps in and says, does the OSEE have any in-state replay? The Duet 8 does not have a replay. The Duet does not have a replay. The Deck does not have a replay, but I think somebody mentioned that there might be replay. Somebody mentioned replay with regards to the Omni 12. I don't know how it works. There's still a lot up in the air. As I said, all we have is this splash page to go on and a video that somebody made at the expo. There's no official page on their website with the specifications because things are still being finalized. They were showing it at the expo. It's not available for sale. It's not a, this is finished type of product. They said they were going to start seeding them out to some testers to really finalize what it can do and how it does it. But right now, I cannot confirm nor deny whether the Omni 12 has replay. But I can deny that all of the other ones do not have replay. Is it possible to use a YOLOBox Pro with the Duet 8 ISO? Yeah. What would be the best features and benefits? If you wanted to use a YOLOBox Pro or Mini even, because you're only going to take one, use the 8 to do, the Duet 8. Let's just say the Duet 8. Yeah, that's what you said. I have the Duet 8 ISO. I'm going to switch 8 physical cameras, or maybe 6 physical cameras and 2 NDI sources or whatever. And then I'm going to take the single output of that and run it into my Mini. And my Mini has the one HDMI input. And from there, I could do my pre-show, my countdown, any bumpers I need. For, if it's a conference, we'll be back in 20 minutes. We'll be back, it's lunchtime, things like that. So you can keep the stream going. You can record the program in the Mini. You can record the program in the Duet. So you have a backup on a second device in case something happens. You can do viewer comments and manage that on the other device, which you can't do in the Duet. You can do replay on the YOLOBox, which you can't do in the Duet. So there's a lot of things that, having the Duet handle 8 cameras, which the Mini and the Pro can't do, the Duet 8 handles that just fine. Records all of that just fine. You know, it gives you great capability in terms of audio capability. You got limiters and compressors and equalizers on every channel. That's really cool. So you have a division of tasks that give you the ability to leverage what they're both really good at. So even if you had like, you know, a YOLOBLOX Mini, which is, you know, only has the one HDMI input, now all of a sudden it's an 8-input switcher and all the capabilities that YOLOBLOX gives you. You know, like another key advantage is this right here. You can live stream to 3 destinations from the GoStream, but you are sending 3 streams. So if you wanted to go to YouTube and a second YouTube and Facebook, you could do that from here. But if you're sending a 5 megabit stream, that's going to be 3 times 5, 15 megabits. And usually I say double it so you're safe. So you're going to want to make sure you have a 30 megabit upload to make sure that your 15 always has enough headroom. And in a cellular situation at, say, a sports game with a big audience, that's going to be a hard thing. If you have the YOLOBLOX Duet, you can use YOLOBLOX multicasting, which is only going to send 1 stream, and then it's going to be split in the cloud. So that way, now you're only going to send that one 5 megabit stream. For safety, you only need 10. That's going to be a lot easier to do at, you know, over cellular at a location and let it be split in the cloud. Or you can do H.265 and bring it down to like 4 or 3 megabits. So there's a lot of advantages to, you know, the distribution of tasks with that. Is the Omni supposed to come out in July? I'm really looking forward to it. I can't say. I am not part of the OSEE core group of people. As far as I know, I'm not going to be one of the beta testers. I've provided some feedback based on what they have. I think one person has listened to me with regards to the labels since they're printing. They haven't even printed them yet. They haven't printed the top pieces of plastic that go on this thing. And you know, I hope they can take some input, but I have not been asked for my input, so I also don't know what the timeline is. So I can't answer that one. I was just using the Extreme myself. Every now and then, I also set the ISO to 8 on the Extreme, not just because of the additional options, but also to spare the Extreme's CPU. ISO to 8 on the Extreme. So do you record 8 ISOs on the Extreme? Does that lower the Extreme's CPU requirements? Interesting. I'm curious what the workflow is with that. And Pete says, thank you, sir. You're very welcome. One of the another key thing that I wanted to mention with regards to the Omni is, well, first of all, the Omni is bigger. But right over here is a joystick control. And you have the ability pan and tilt, and then there's zoom right here. And then of course there's a big fade to black button right in your face that you can accidentally push and fade your show. But thankfully, they've said that other people have complained about this and you can disable the button completely in software. So thank you. I don't need to accidentally push a really fat fade to black button accidentally while doing PTZ. This was asked for, and you know, do note that there's not a preset thing over there. I've been told you can use the macro buttons, which are up there in the middle, to do your presets and save presets. But again, as far as I know, they didn't change it so you can page between the different macros. It just is 1 to 10 on there, just like it's only 1 to 10 here. But in the actual software, there's several pages of macros. So if you're using a companion or something like that, then that opens the door and says, you know what, 1 to 10 are things that the operator here needs to do. But if I need to set PTZ positions, I'm going to set those on page 2 or 3, put that on a little StreamTek, next to the person who's setting them over there. So that way you can use this joystick, set camera 1, camera 2, camera 3 to different presets. Once you set them, they're going to be presets, and you're not, this is not a big joystick with, fine control, or like the Bird Dog actually has a super fine control. So if you're zoomed in all the way, it actually steps the motor down to like this super slow crawl, so that when somebody's walking the stage, you're not going to go and go right past them. You're just going to go super slow, because it's so far away that the motor has to move at a fraction of what it normally moves in order to track someone when it's zoomed in really far. I don't think this is going to have that capability, but enough people asked and OSEE listened to add some basic PTZ capability in the control surface that you see there. And I say control surface, but it's the whole switcher. The computer, the recording, it's all in the box. And now you've got some PTZ control in there as well. Plus also, if you hit one of the presets and somebody moved a chair or something like that, you can quickly grab control and just move it over a little bit. So the PTZ control is a definite new thing on the Omni that's not available on any of the other OSEE switchers. Sorry, I meant to say, by connecting the GoStream to the Extreme as a single input, I can save this. Yes. No, I didn't understand, but yes, you could definitely do the GoStream to the Extreme. Too many streams. You could use the Duet 8 into the YOLO box and let the Duet 8 do all the ISO recording and all of the switching. You're not going to have ease of building multi-views, and that's actually something I wanted to show today, is that with all of these, these are like really good switchers. What they are not is they are not all-in-one production tools. And the key difference is an all-in-one production tool is going to do a lot of things and also make them very easy. So if you were, is it this one? If you were to back out of this and say, you know what I want to do? I want to create, I think it's up a little bit. I want to adjust my multi-source. So I'm going to go into multi-source, and then I'm going to go into this template with 2 windows side by side. Or, even, let me come over here, and I'm going to select this one. Okay. Yes. I come over here to confirm. Okay. Now I go into, now I have to exit out of this, and then exit out of that. And then I come down to window 1, and then I can enable this. Whoops. Nope, not that. I'm multi-source. Come down to window 1 again, enter, and now enable is on, source is input 1. No, I'm actually going to want this to be input 2. Let's go back to 2, and then my X position and my Y position and my size and my crop left, Okay, you can see it's cumbersome. There's just no arguing that. This is cumbersome if you wanted to tweak these settings, okay? Now, compare this to, compare this. I was actually in this box, switching my, this one and this one, side-by-side boxes. Okay, now, this is a YOLO Box Pro. This is, I don't know, 5 years old now, 6 years old now. I got 2 inputs. I want to create a multi-view, side-by-side, right? I say this, I say side-by-side, I say this and this. Done. I move it over a little bit. I put a background on it. I say done. I'm done. And I have said this before. There is honestly, you are hard pressed to find anything that makes doing that this easy. What? Am I pushing the button? I'm sorry. Apparently I was resting it on the buttons. You know what? I want another multi-view. And for this one, I'm going to do 2 this and this. I mean, I only have 2, but it could be anything, 1, 2, and then I want a different background, and then I'm going to change the border color to orange. Okay, actually, you know what? StreamTek purple, of course. And then, oh, you know what? I got them in the wrong order. Swap, and then I'm going to change thicker border, scale. How big do I want them? You know, like that, and done. And then it's up. You know, that flexibility and capability by having the multiple inputs come into the YOLO box, if that is something you need, the YOLO box really excels at making that sort of multi-layer compositional thing easy. It just does. You know, and I've said that many times. I haven't found anything that makes it easier. And I don't, all of my years of experience, I don't know how you could make it easier. You know, the only thing you can't do is you can't drag these around on the screen here and like size and everything like that. You can do that on an OBSBot talent or a Magewell director. You can literally grab them on the screen and I want this over here and this over there and everything. And the talent and the Magewell do have templates, but I just find this is still easier and faster, more intuitive and fluid than pretty much anything else I've worked with to build multi-views like that. It's what do I got? I got 51%. It stands out. And you know, while these switchers are really good and powerful, they're switchers. The primary 60 to 80% is to switch. You know, yes, I can do audio mixing. Yes, I can do macros. Yes, I can do PTZ control now. But their primary purpose is switching and ISO recording. It's not going to be building those multi-layers. And you can do really big multi-layers in this. They talk about how this new one lets you do 12 layers. Remember, you have to do those 12 layers from inputs you have inside the machine, you know, whether they be graphic sources or video sources and everything like that. So if you're using a live video playback, one of your playback buffers, and then you're using 3 of your video inputs, you know, as you see right there, the 12 layers, he is, you know, there's multiple uses of your key inputs. So even like you could do that with this one, you know, I can create a really nice super source, but I'm going to be using, you know, part of these to do it. And then if I'm not in the multi-source, I only have 4 more inputs, or I only have 3 more inputs. So you have to remember that part of, you know, well, you got your media players over here and your titles, your graphics are somewhere else. But those are separate. But if you have, you know, his main camera and then the 2 guest cameras and then probably another playback layer, you know, it does reduce the number of inputs that aren't that multi-source. Now, that said, you can still cut between the host talking and then the host in the multi-view, and then one of the guests talking and then the guest in the multi-view. So you're going to cut back and forth between those as different sources, but you know, you're still going to be able to do all of that much more fluidly in an all-in-one solution. So the Omni 12 is no vMix. No. But the vMix is no Omni 12 either. They're very different tools, very, very different tools. You know, vMix has no control surface for an operator to just switch 12 inputs, but without ever looking down. You have to add things to make that happen. vMix, you know, has some audio controls and you can control presets, and you know, the Omni 12, oh, I didn't even get into the inputs and outputs. The Omni 12 has 6 outputs. 6 outputs. You want vMix to have an output? You're going to add an output card. And then for each output card you add, you know, you have to put things together and make that happen. So here we go. Side by side. Actually, let me go over. So over here, you've got all of these are outputs. You got 2 HDMI outputs, and then they say 6, but it's actually 4. Then you've got SDI output 1 on 2 different ports and SDI output 2 on 2 different ports, meaning that if you needed to send it to 2 monitors, you don't need to add a splitter after the fact. You could just plug in 2 different cables. 2 cables to 2 things. And unlike the Duet, which has one of the outputs is fixed to be the multi-view, the user can select what goes out on all of these outputs from anything. You have full control over everything. Nothing is hardwired to be your multi-view. The other really key thing, and circling all the way back to when I talked about the Duet the Duet 8 only has these 2 USB ports, and because they are so handy to do so many different things, only having 2 sucks. So what they did with this one, you got 6. And because you're now able to record internally all your ISOs to the CFast, that removes one of the things these outputs were going to do. One of these is DisplayPort, 2 of these are webcam, and you got 6 of them. Not only did they give you, 200% more than you had before, they took away one of the reasons you had to use a USB by giving you the CFast port. So now with the CFast port, your 12-channel recording is internal, and you don't have to use up one of the ports to go to an external SSD. All of this. I mean, think about it. If you had vMix and you wanted to record 12 channels of ISO recording and you wanted to record your program, you're going to need a whole lot of storage, and you're going to need a whole lot of processing power to compress all of that to recordable files. That's going to be a whole lot of things to do. Plus, you've got the audio input-output. And you can't really see it in this video. It's not resolving at the higher quality that it did when I did my last show about this. But this is 2 XLRs, and they're labeled 1, 2, and then there's a mini jack that says 3 and 4. Now, later somebody says, no, it's either mini jack or the XLR, just like it is on the Duet 8. But I was like, but that's not how this is labeled. This is labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the headphone port, which I think should be in the front. But that's just me. And then your AC over here. And then it's got Wi-Fi. So you could actually bring in Ethernet, make this into a hotspot with 2 little Wi-Fi antennas, and then walk around with a cell phone using a tested NDI app directly into the switcher as one of your upper inputs. Oh, and remember, this is just 1 through 8. There are more buttons than this. So when you add an NDI input via the wireless, that's not taking up one of this. You can still have 8 SDI cameras and NDI cameras over here, or USB sources. So there is a lot going on in that video mixer. So the Omni 12 is no vMix, and then you say, I should say any OSEE product. Yeah, they're very different, especially because it's all in the switcher. You can throw this down on a table, plunk, I'm done. And then you add a monitor. Okay, it's like a laptop. It's like you need a monitor so that you can see the multi-view, so you can bring up the menu and do everything. But this is it. There's no compute. There's no, you want to add storage, you add storage. You want to, load media, you load media. And you plug all your physical inputs into this. So you've got 4 USBs, 4 SDIs. How are you getting those into your vMix? You need another thing to handle all of that I/O. Oh, I got 3 outputs. Okay, now I need even more I/O and my multiple USBs. You're going to have that on a computer. XLR jacks. Okay, now I need more I/O. Audio input output box and everything. And then I want to have physical buttons so I can look up and just, pound out a show. Ready? Oh, and there. Okay, and I'm going to go to Media Player 2, or Media Player, let's go over here. I want a camera on Media Player 2, ready, and you can see it's got the play up there, and I say auto, and as it goes in the auto, boom, there it goes, and it would play automatically. So that is the magic of this, and there's no setup, there's no building. If you're just cutting a show and ISO recording, you throw this thing down, you plug them in, and you say go. If you were streaming, you'd have to set that up. If you were going to do a couple of different super sources, you'd have to set that up. But if you just have a simple throw it down and cut a sports show with a boxing thing where you just need to cut different cameras, boom, 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 you're done. And you can record all of them and get the shot that, I cut to the wrong camera. You could see that hit a lot better from this other camera. Okay, I got it. Using both SDI and HDMI cameras lag from HDMI be compensated. I don't know. I mean, we can check in the menu. We can check if the HDMI can be adjusted. Usually, you'd have to compensate. I will say that a good camera, whether via HDMI or SDI, should be the same. A good camera will ship both of those signals at the same time. And when I plug into a bird dog camera via SDI and HDMI, there's no difference between those two signals coming from the camera. It's baseband video coming off the board through an output. HDMI is not compressed. SDI is not compressed. It is just the signal coming out. Now, coming into a switcher like this, there is no sync. There is no gen lock. So this switcher will delay every signal that comes in order to synchronize it with the other signals that are coming in from other cameras that are also not synchronized. That has to happen on any non-gen locked video mixer. Now, you go to the broadcast world, they will have a switcher and it will have black burst, it will have gen lock, probably even have timecode in it, and those signals are in sync with all of the cameras that are also receiving them as well. So everything that is connected in a football stadium or a cricket stadium or anything like that, they're all receiving this sync pulse, and every single frame on every single camera starts at the exact same time. With this, I have a bunch of things connected, but none of them are in sync. They're all starting at different times. So you can't dissolve between two different sources when they're starting the frame at different places or different moments in time. You have to take these signals apart and resynchronize them to an internal clock. These are all going to be delayed in the switcher. That's just how this works, how the YOLO box works, how the Blackmagic works. All the minis work. The broadcast switchers do have gen lock on the Blackmagic line. The minis do not. If you had this, or if you had Mind Media, or if you had any of those things, or a vMix system. vMix has to rip all those signals apart, and vMix does have a video delay on the inputs. So let's go and check. We're going to go to the multi-view. Oh, yeah, I know. I was sitting on the button to it. Press the menu button. 1, 2, go away. There we go. So now, you can come down here to your inputs. Input mode. You can see this is where I was talking about SDI or HDMI, SDI2 or HDMI2. So I can toggle each of those inputs between those two sources. And then if I go to input mode, there's 4 modes. This is the interleaved, SDI, HDMI, SDI, H, and now 5, 6, 7, 8 have all of those choices. HDMI first, SDI first. So that's the 4 different modes. Let's come back out of that. And what I'm looking for is it does not look like there is a delay on the inputs. Need to back up one. And this is where I can, yeah, input one's got two things plugged into it. Won't let me change it. Input 5 is players. So it does not look like there is a delay, a video buffer in this system that could delay, like if you had one source that was coming in very fast and other sources that were slower, that you would need to delay that one source to match the rest of them in timing altogether. Now there's still going to be, you know, the delay inside the switcher, but it does not look like there's a per source buffer inside the Duet 8. I don't have the Omni 12. I've not seen it in person, so I can't speak to that. And whether it has that capability could still be something that is being developed or considered or talked about. So I can't speak to whether it has it or not. But the switcher itself, you know, looks to be quite the powerful thing. And it does have cooling. They have a big fan on the bottom. It's got copious cooling in it to keep it running, just like the Duet 8 has a nice fan in it that you can manually ramp up to a high speed if you want to, you know, preemptively keep it cooled off. And then he does, there's the fan on the bottom and it blows out the sides. Let's see if we can get a little closer. I'm looking at the bottom here. Thought there was a part where he held it up a little closer. Nope. And oh, and one other thing with this is it is designed for vertical or horizontal production. So you can set up the whole thing to be vertical inputs and you're doing vertical switching, or horizontal inputs and you're doing horizontal switching. Just a lot of capability being put into these video mixers these days. And one of the shows I will be doing on my travels is, again, I'm going to be talking about Restream, because Restream has now made it so I can do horizontal and vertical switching at the same time, and I can design what the horizontal and vertical look like. So I just select my preset 1, my side-by-side, me and a guest, you know, me and, you know, laptop. I have all these scenes, but now those scenes can be designed for both horizontal and vertical at the same time. And the horizontal and vertical can go to different destinations at the same time from the same studio. That's what I'm going to be talking about in the upcoming weeks when I do that show from the road. So that is what I have going on. Again, if you haven't already, if you're watching this later and you haven't already, please do check me out on YouTube, StreamTek with a K. And that is where you can find all 293 videos. And if you are looking for something in particular, microphones or PTZ or wireless or NDI or HDMI or microphones or anything like that, there's a great little search capability right there. You can just type that in and drill down to what you're looking to get. As always, my name is Anthony Barokas. I am the Chief Gearhead here at StreamTek. I look forward to seeing you in future shows, and I want to thank everybody for being here. And till next time, thanks for watching.